currently the government fixes minimum support price on 23 farm commodities. By the government's own estimates, if MSP is to be guaranteed on these 23 crops, that would be about 17 lakh crore rupees, which is about 50% of India's annual expenditure as per union budget estimates. Even if we leave the government's estimates aside and look at what independent agricultural experts are saying, there's a piece today out by Harish Damodran where he talks about a figure of 11.9 lakh crore rupees for these 23 crops, which include 7 cereals, 5 pulses, 7 oilseeds, 4 commercial crops like cotton, sugarcane, copra and raw jute. So 11.9 lakh crore rupees, even if I leave the government's figure of 17 lakh crore rupees on the side. Can India afford minimum support price that is guaranteed by law, support price which goes against every convention of economics where pricing should be based on demand and supply? If there isn't enough demand, why should prices be much more than what they would be in a free market economy? To talk about this and more, we're joined on the Newstrack by Rakesh Sinha, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament of the BJP. Supriya Shirnet represents the Congress in this discussion. Yogendra Yadav has been one of the key faces of the farmer agitation. I look forward to engaging with him in this conversation. He's the president of the Swaraj India campaign. Sushmita Dev joins us from the Trinamool Congress. Yogendra Yadav, let me come to you straight, sir. Even if I leave for a moment aside the figure of 17 lakh crore rupees, which the government has been talking about, and focus on what independent agricultural experts are saying, the requirement that you are now placing before the government, forget the Modi government for a moment, requires India to commit to the tune of about 11.9 lakh crore rupees. This is by independent experts, not by government estimates. I'm not even counting government estimates for this discussion. That, sir, would be fiscally ruinous. Why are you suggesting, when the government's walked back, taken back the farm laws, why are you now demanding that MSP be turned into law and that the agitation will not be called back unless the government agrees to do so? Yogendra Yadav.
Rahul, I'm actually astonished that a serious journalist like you are flaunting these figures, which are completely ridiculous figures, and I say with complete information and some authority. I'm astonished that a debate like this begins with the anchor giving a verdict before the debate begins. I hope you would change the verdict by the end of it when you listen to the facts. First of all, in every report that you have played so far in the last 5-7 minutes, you have said now the farmers are demanding, as if this was not their demand. Allow me to just mention that in October 2020, even before we reached Delhi, our memorandum mentioned MSP. All the 11 rounds, we mentioned MSP. The government of India, in its own summary of what our demands were, includes MSP. Our Kisan Sansad devoted 2 days to MSP. This is not something we have invented today. Number two, this is, you come to suggest as if, oh, these farmers, what ridiculous things they have come up with. Rahul, just for your information, if this is ridiculous, this is exactly what Mr. Modi demanded in 2011 when he was the chairman of Chief Minister's Working Group. The recommendation was that MSP should be given a legal status. That's Mr. Modi's recommendation to Mr. Manmohan Singh. Must have been very ridiculous, isn't it? And if it is ridiculous, Rahul, this is exactly, so if you could say, well, he was an opposition leader, he said things of this kind. Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, Government of India's own official body, in year 2017-18, in its report has recommended exactly this. They must also be ridiculous. Now, for the figures are completely off, Rahul. I'm very sorry. You've actually not even bothered to read Harish Damodran's article. If you had just the patience to go till the end of the article, what the article says is this, that the total cost of all the crops in this country is 11.7 lakh rupees. Yes, if you were to purchase all the crops of this country and throw it in Indian Ocean, yes, of course, it will cost you 11.7 lakh rupees. But what does he go on to say? The article, I'm just referring to the article you referred to. He says out of this 11.7, there is some crop that farmers themselves consume. Only 9 lakh crore rupees worth of crop comes to the market. Then he says, out of this, nearly 4 lakh crore rupees worth of crops are already being purchased. That leaves only 5 lakh crore. Then he says, if the government were to purchase this 5 lakh crore rupees worth of crop, it would also sell it back. So what the government would have to pay is only the difference. And the difference then naturally would come to something less than 1 lakh crore rupees. I have done very careful calculations, Rahul. I have published it. It is there. You can just click it in front of your eyes. It would be. I don't know. You obviously need to read more economists. The calculation for 1 year worked out to 46,000 crore rupees. For another year, 37,000 crore rupees. Give and take a bit, we are speaking of about 1.6 or to 2% of the budget of Union of India. If your case is that the government cannot spend 2% of the union budget on 60% farmers of this country, well, then we are talking something very different, Rahul. Then we should. So please forget these ridiculous figures.
Let me contest part of what you're saying, because the moment any farmer or any producer has the option of selling to government at a particular price, which is fixed and mandated, it creates all manner of unhealthy practices. We're already seeing, Yogendra Yadav, how in Punjab, agriculture is now stagnating, if not in decline, because farmers continue to produce ruinous crops like paddy, which should not be produced in a rain deficit state like Punjab, where water tables are plummeting. And therefore, sir, I question your economics when you say that this is a good idea, because rather than focusing on livestock, rather than focusing on increasing farmer income through allied activities, what you're suggesting is essentially that MSP be guaranteed, and therefore farmers will keep producing crops because they know that there will be a buyer. This defies every notion of economics. I'm sorry, I don't agree with you in the least, sir.
It doesn't, Rahul. So now so now we've handled the budget part of it. Now let's do the second thing. All these objections have come up. I have written to refute all of these. But the second objection, therefore, is A, makes no sense in free market economics. Rahul Kanwal. Similarly, tomorrow you would say minimum wages makes no sense. Any ban on surge prices make no sense. Why should there be a limit on what the airlines can charge? Why should there be an MRP on medicines? Rahul, all over the world, free markets are regulated. That's what we are saying. And in case you want to find out, for agriculture, in all parts of the world, agriculture produce prices are regulated, ought to be regulated. Why? Because we do not want atta to cost 1,000 rupees a kg. And the other point that you mentioned, that it would be ruinous. And then, the point that therefore farmers will grow more in wheat and rice. Very interesting point, Rahul. That's exactly my point. Farmers are going more wheat and rice, not because the government of India offers MSP, but because government of India fulfills its promise of MSP only in these two crops, Rahul. Please read Arvind Subramaniam's report on cereals, on pulses. What he's saying is, what the government does, and all your viewers should know it, government announces with grand fanfare MSP for 22 or 23 crops every year. But this promise is delivered in the case of only two crops, namely wheat and paddy. What would you do, Rahul, if you were a farmer? You would grow only wheat and paddy.
That's the point I'm making, that it encourages unhealthy agricultural practices. Yogendra Yadav, and I want to go back to the figures that you mentioned, because just 1 second, sir. MSP is currently being enforced on 3.8 lakh crore worth of produce. If you look at what is left for the 23 MSP crops, that would require another 5 lakh crore rupees or so. You are, sir, underplaying the amount of allocation that would be required and taking as a given the quantum of allocation that is already being made in favor of MSP crops. That also needs to be considered when you look at the overall budget that will be required to be able to sustain MSP purchases on these 23 crops. That can't be left aside, because ye to aa hi raha hai, ab aur dekhte kitna chahiye.
I'm glad you're reading Harish Damodaran's article. So I would now suggest go to the last para of the article and read the important thing. The important thing, Rahul, is this 5.8 lakh crore is not what the government would need to spend. This is the price for purchase. Government would not set fire to these things.
So how much of the produce goes waste? Have you seen what happens at the Food Corporation of India godowns and elsewhere, where there are rats? In many cases, they're out in the open, the crops, there's water falling on them, they're going waste. That is an unhealthy economic practice, sir.
That is because, lovely. So this is the final clarification I make, and then you go to the panelists. Number one, the mistake that you are making, Rahul, is number one in the assumption that the government should actually implement it only in 2 crops. The moment government actually starts delivering this promise on the remaining 22 crops, which is exactly what we are asking for, why would farmers overgrow wheat? Why would they overgrow paddy? And number 2, about godowns and rotting, you're absolutely right. There has been a lot of wastage because of this capacity in godowns and over purchase of wheat and rice. What is the solution? The solution is, and that is the basic misunderstanding you have. In fact, you again need to read Harish Damodharan's article. This is, everyone assumes that the only way of delivering MSP is if the government purchases and put things in godown. That's what we are used to. That's not the only method. One of the most important methods is deficit payment, which is what happened in Haryana. This time BJP government has done it. They said, look, we don't want to purchase bajra. We already have too much of it. The farmers should get 2,250 rupees. That is the MSP. But in market, they are getting only 1,650. That's what the government thought. So the government said, okay, we are not going to do any purchase. We will simply make up the difference. The government transferred 600 rupees per quintal to the accounts of the farmers. No purchase, no go down, no rotting. Why don't we think of this? We don't think of this, Rahul, because we don't bother about the farmer. We are not interested in finding smart solutions. There are several solutions, and over-purchasing, putting things in go down and letting them to rot is one of the most unintelligent ways of ensuring MSP. There are very many intelligent ways if we have the political will.
Deficit financing isn't a very smart way of doing this either, because you're paying someone more than he would command in a market. If a product is being sold for price X, because that's what the law of economics demands in terms of demand versus supply, you're paying more than is required, and therefore you're encouraging farmers again to stay with the crops where the MSP is guaranteed. But I'll come back to you in just a moment, and I just want to make the point, since you said it 3 or 4 times. I read the same article as you did, but our interpretation is very different because our economics is different. But we leave that on the side for the time being. I want to go across to Rakesh Sinha. And Rakesh Sinha, the problem is, even if this is a political demand, it's a potent political demand. You can argue about how this is problematic economically till the cows come back, but the fact is that the farmers believe at this moment that they have the government at the back foot, that they're winning this battle in the farms, on the streets, and therefore they want to push it through. Ek dhakka aur do, that seems to be the thinking, that you've got what you want. Largely, let's push this through. The government's on the back foot. Let's get them to commit to MSP. And as Yogendra Yadav rightly points out, even Chief Minister Modi, in his time as the head of the government in Gujarat, had argued for MSP. So forget the economics for a moment. Politically, it's a loaded demand.
You know, Rahul, the primary thing before the government of India since 1950 has to strengthen the farmers' economic condition. This is the primary thing. And you all read in the textbook, farmers born in debt, live in debt and die in debt. So when Prime Minister Modi ji came into power, his priority has been to strengthen the farmers' foundation, economic and social foundation. That's why, what is Krishi Samman Nidhi? Yogendra Yadav is forgetting that Krishi Samman, what he says that Haryana government is giving money without procuring, that what is Krishi Samman Nidhi, how much money has been transferred to the farmers, the smaller and marginal farmers. For them, 2,500 rupees matters. These farmers who were not in the position to sustain their life, I think 1.56 lakh crore has been transferred to 10 crore farmers. What is this? I am talking about that the MSP has been increased between the 2019 to 14. The UPA government has given the MSP, and during the 2014 to these 6-7 years, the rate of MSP has been increased. Yogendra Yadav is not oblivious. He is a person who reads everything, who knows everything, but it is his political compulsion to be partially true and partially hiding the truth. I am telling you that in dal, There was a 645 crore per procurement, and now there is 49,000 crore. In oilseed, it was just now 25,000 crore per procurement. That is more than 10 times. And masoor and sarso, 400 rupees has been increased MSP, and in other dal 30 rupees increased. Overall, we are doing on 3 planks. One is strengthening our priority, the marginal and smaller farmers, so that they should not become the landless labor. That is our priority. Second thing is that giving the all requirements like the seeds, soil testing, the things which has been expanded in the field of agriculture. I am happy that Jogendra Jadhav, anybody is more aspirant for the farmers. We are all for the farmers. But just he has to say that till 2014, 1947 to 2014, whatever have been done for the farmers, only during the election there was
let me for a moment draw.
That was not the issue.
Just one second. Hear what I'm saying. I'm coming back to you. Let me draw a parallel with one rank, one pension, which agitated ex-servicemen. If you ask an economist whether the kind of demands being made by some of the servicemen, ex-servicemen for the OROP agitation made sense, they said it would not. And Arun Jaitley kept arguing at that time that this will be fiscally ruinous, that the actual numbers that we'll have to allocate for OROP in the years to come will be much more than is being spoken of now, which is exactly what happened later. But it caught on to the emotion of servicemen and others. Now, if you ask the poor and the dispossessed in this country whether farmers should get MSP, the minimum support price, in the framing the argument in the manner in which Yogendra Yadav just did, it's a very compelling emotional and political argument. That's the problem you face. It's not about who's winning the economic argument. Your problem at this moment seems to be the political and emotional argument, which the farmers and those who back the farmers, which is the vast majority of this country, would feel very strongly. How do you intend to deal with that? Because when Narendra Singh Tomar was asked this question this morning, he didn't know what to say. When he was asked this question about MSP, he had to walk away. It's a politically loaded demand. You've pulled back on the farm laws. How do you intend to deal with it? Explain that.
Rahul, forget that I belong to BJP. I just went to an area in Bihar which is known as Diara. Jogendra Yadav must be knowing that what Diara means. The farmers who are affected by every year by flood and the drought, and they always lose their house and the land. In that Diara, I went and asked the people about their condition during this regime. The farmers are most happy. Every part of the country you go, except a small number of farmers, which Prime Minister pointed out in democracy that some people we could not convince. You go to each and every part of the country, you will find that farmers, for the first time, realizing that they are not the client of the state. That a jamindar is a state as a jamindar, they are the client. They are the stakeholders in the economic progress and economic development of the state. The second important thing is that we all are the part of democracy. We are independent nation. And this time BJP, last time Congress, any party can come to the government. Any action which take the welfare measures, the viability is very important thing. It is a progressive evolution of any law. When you go for the progressive evolution, you will see the viability. And that viability is being examined by the experts, which is being contested by Jogendra Yadav, because his calculation does not match with the calculation of so many agricultural experts. It is not one people. If suppose I calculate and I say this is the only truth, that is not the right thing. You cannot condemn all the agricultural experts who are saying that the viability, you have to see the viability.
Okay.
Government has not closed the door.
I want to go across to Supriya Shirne,
democratic
and I wonder what
that's
her...
why, Rahul, I'm telling you.
I'm coming back to you, sir.
Rahul, just one sentence. Just one sentence I'm ending. That since 2014, because we have given priority to the farmers, that's why farmers are coming. There is a wide range discussion on the agriculture and farmer. Never it happened since the first 5-year plan till the plan existed in India. Ken Jogendra Yadav was that sometimes such kind of wide discussion and wide measures have been taken by the government. We are politically divided. That does not mean that you will condemn things which are being done for the farmers. Farmers are being strengthened, consolidated. Nobody can deny, nobody can contest here, even if they are opposed to the BJP.
Okay, now Supriya Shirne, I wonder what you would have said if you were the one asking questions on a business news channel and in another capacity from the hat that you wear at this moment. And if the MSP demand, which you now so passionately believe in, is something that your party believes is the right thing to do, why did your party not do this, ma'am, in all the years that you've been in power?
Since you've asked me two questions, let me answer them equally. And I have yet to come across another show where Shri Rakesh Sinha ji has sounded so evasive and so non-convincing, Sinha ji, with all due respect to you. But having said that, you know what is their seriousness towards the MSP? The Farm Repeal Bill, which was tabled in the Parliament today, was passed in the Lok Sabha in 8 minutes and in 2 minutes within the Rajya Sabha. It actually says it's minimum sale price. They don't even know minimum support price or minimum sale price ka antar aapke bill mein nahi hai. Sir, a bill that's drafted by the ministry, goes to the law ministry, then goes to the cabinet secretariat, then goes to the Lok Sabha secretariat. You've got the full form of MSP wrong. That's your apathy towards MSP. Point number one. Point number two, the CSCP, which sets the MSP for crops. It's a 5-member body. There is no head for some years now, for 2 years. There are only 2 members. Where are the rest of the 3 members? That's your apathy towards MSP. And Rahul, because you asked me a cogent question about the economic relevance of an MSP, I will tell you what I economically feel. And I absolutely disagree with what Rakesh Sinha ji has said and what you said in your opening comments, because the very basic understanding of economics will tell you 101 economics is you've got to revive the demand cycle. The demand cycle will be revived by the rural economy. How are you planning to revive that? Please tell me this without increasing the purchasing power of farmers. आपको तो आय दुगनी करनी थी ना राकेश सिन्हा जी, February 2022 तक. The average income of a farmer today is 27 rupees a day. You know how much is the average loan on every farmer? 74,000 rupees. How much loan has been spared for corporates? 8.8 lakh crore rupees. That is ruinous. 1.45 lakh crore rupees gone by the way of corporate tax cut, which did not create even one job. That is ruinous. Farmer MSP is not ruinous because it's economically viable. And I will say...
No, but you haven't answered the basic question. Supriya Shirnet, if the Congress... One second. If the Congress party is such a strong, passionate champion of the minimum support price, why, ma'am, did Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Dr. Manmohan Singh, in the years in power, not give the country the MSP?
Yes, I will tell you why. Because the time when we were in power, between 2004 to 2014, the average increase in MSP was twice of the average increase done in the last 7.5 years by the Modi government. Let it be on record. आपने %0.5 कराए हमारे percentage increase से. I want to place facts on record. Farmers were not so adamant on MSP then because they believe the government will not do things against them in the din of the night, which this government has done, and which is why farmers now want MSP on the statute on record. I also want to say something. This PM Samman Kisan Nidhi, sir, you give them 6,000 rupees. 9 crore farmers are out of the ambit. I'm not even arguing that. You have increased the cost of agriculture by 20 to 25,000 rupees per hectare. एक हाथ से दे रहे हैं और दोनों हाथों से ले रहे हैं. Stop this nuisance. And I will also tell you in Chhattisgarh, where we wanted to give more MSP, the Modi government passed a law and said if any state government, one second sir, if any state government buys on the price which is more than the MSP, we will not procure the crop. And so now in Chhattisgarh, we actually give the bonus through another scheme. We cannot give it by the way of MSP. That is what this government has done. This government passed a law saying you cannot procure crops at more than the MSP declared. Otherwise, we will not buy your crops to the state government. You are as dubious as that when it comes to MSP. At least get the full form right in the Repeal Act.
Let me get a word in from Sushmita Deb before I go back to Rakesh Sinha. Sushmita Deb, would you concede that this is more a political demand than there is an economic demand? Because if you start calculating the economic rationale and the numbers, they do look skewed against this demand, because it seems to be more an emotional demand, a demand born out of anger, frustration with shrinking land holdings, wages in agricultural sector not rising fast, and therefore it's now become a political rather than economic demand.
See, Rahul, first, I think what we all need to put into perspective is, it's not that MSP was never given in this country. It was being given from the 1960s by way of an executive order. Now, what are the farmers asking? Farmers are asking that pass a law making it mandatory. Okay, the calculations will come later. Whether it's going to be 23 crops, whether it's going to be more than what the mechanism is going to be.
I'm astounded at what you're saying. Ma'am, how can calculations come later? You calculate what you're committing to, you determine whether you can afford it, and then you take a decision on whether it makes sense.
Whether it's going to cost us 9 crores or 17 crores. Please understand.
Lakh crores, ma'am, not 9 crores, 9 lakh crores. The government says 17 lakh crores, not 9 crores. That's half our budget.
Yes, whatever the figures are. Whatever the figures are, first the farmers are asking that pass a law to make it mandatory. That's what they are saying. And if you don't want to do it, and if you're so happy discussing it on television, what is the reason that bills were repealed without this being debated in Parliament within 4 minutes? If Mr. Rakesh Sinha has so much to say on television, and all of us have so much to say on television, shouldn't this be debated? And this is not a new demand, which is what Mr. Yadav is going on saying, which is saying, oh, now that Modi government has repealed it, they have made this an issue and is arm twisting the government. That is completely wrong. Your viewers need to know that. This is not a new demand.
No, sure. So I accept that. That's completely
And this
fair.
should have been debated in the Parliament today.
Here's the point, which I agree
said that this should be debated in the Parliament today.
Even though there's a big difference between 9 crores and 9 lakh crores, but I agree with what Sushmita Dev is saying, Rakesh Sinha, that there should have been a debate in Parliament. The day started by the Prime Minister saying that let there be an open discussion on all issues, and later in the Business Advisory Committee, the government refuses to accept the demand for a debate. The law came without debate, was passed without debate, it gets repealed without debate, and you're saying we are open and willing to debate all issues. How do you square the two, what you're claiming and what's happening on the ground in Parliament?
I'm really surprised. The Prime Minister is at this juncture, when claimed that India is the oldest democracy, by quoting Lakshmi and Vaisali, not it is Athens and Sparta, that time opposition is doing something to declaim all these things. When these 3 farms law were brought into, the opposition got the time. After the business committee set and the opposition got the time, every political party. The opposition demanded more time. When you lack logic, you need more time. And opposition were given just double time what they deserved. They said no debate. And ruling party, not a single occasion. Even after the provocative statements against our leaders, our ideology, our icons, we remained silent. Our High Command always asked not to speak anything or counter them. And that occasion, the rooks in the Parliament, even the school children don't do in the classroom. The violence which we heard in the assemblies in the past, and we condemn that. Now you are declaiming your democracy. The Vijji Sandesh of message of Bhagwan Buddha, that full democracy. Full debate and discussion and consistent debate discussion. Hooliganism is not disruption. I can understand disruption. Disruption can be done.
The disruption. Look, no, 1 second. The disruption was wrong. I'm asking you the question that you need to answer. Why did the government not accept that there be a debate and discussion on farm laws while this was being repealed? Minister said that PM has already said what he had to have discussion ki kya zarurat hai?
No, I just am telling you, when the full-fledged discussion took place in the Parliament on the question of 3 farms laws, opposition had their own point of view. This is the winter agenda, this is a new thing, and the things they had said. What else they want to say? In fact, you want to create obstruction. These 12 MPs, when they have been suspended, can opposition parties say that this suspension is wrong? They were the people who were trying to create anarchy, unrest in the Parliament, because a ruling party treasury bench remains cool and calm. Otherwise, there would have been big violence inside the Parliament.
Rakesh Sinha and the BJP making the point, we've already taken the bills back. Now what's left to discuss?
This is the
we've accepted your demand. Supriya Shirne.
I'll tell you, 1 second. I'll tell you what is left to discuss. The House needed to acknowledge and apologize for the death of 700 farmers who died during this protest. The House needed to know what has suddenly happened, that the government is taking back these bills which were brought in the din of the night. Forget about all of that. You lied to the House. You told in the Business Advisory Committee that any bill which is repealed has never been discussed. I can outline at least 18 orders since 1961, 1967 actually, that have been repealed by some of your governments as well, Atalji's government also including, which have been discussed tooth and nail. You don't want to discuss. The Prime Minister says, let's discuss. The Speaker says, we will discuss and pass. And then you pass the bill without discussion and you lie to the Business Advisory Committee, sir. Who's responsible for that? The leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha.
Can you point out one bill? Can you
Also, Rakesh Sinha, I'll come back to you for final comments. I'm running out of time. Let Yogender Yadav and Sushmita Dev also make a point. I'll come back to you, Rakesh Sinha, to summarize. Let Yogender Yadav make his point, please. He wants to come in on the government saying there's no need for debate any longer because we've taken the bills back. Yogender Yadav.
Stop apologizing for what...
Rahul, I thought this was going to be a debate on MSP. I did not hear one single sentence from Mr. Rakesh Sinha about the MSP, possibly because his erstwhile organization RSS and Bharatiya Kisan Sangh actually advocates the demand which he is opposing on this show. I'm very happy that I could at least disabuse you.
I'm not opposing. Rahul, let me make correction. No. Yogender Yadav ji, you are habitual to misquote others. Don't misquote others. I am not opposing nobody, neither Prime Minister, nor any minister, nor any BJP MP opposes that. We have increased MSP. I have given a lot of statistics, and you are saying we are opposed to MSP.
Bharatiya Kisan
give your logic. You counter others' logic, but you are not the only person the holier than thou. You have a habit to become holier than thou.
Okay.
In every debate. You just see that all economists are wrong.
Rahul,
you are the only
Okay,
economist.
Rakesh Sinha, I'm going to come back to you in the end. Yogender Yadav, very quickly summarize and then I have to go to Sushmita.
There was a rape at the site. There was a rape at the site. Yogender Yadav was knowing it, but he had not reported to the police. You are talking of the morality. The morality you have to go.
Yogender Yadav, please.
Can you switch off his mic?
Rakesh Sinha.
Yeah. Bharatiya Kisan Sangh is in favor of legal status to MSP. Anyway, full stop after that. I'm very happy, Rahul, that I could disabuse you of the notion that farmers have raised this demand now. I'm glad you recognize there is political and emotional content to it, but I have not yet convinced you about economics, and I have not been able to dissuade you from using these utterly ridiculous figures on a national television.
Sir, I guarantee to you, and I'd rather that we bring an agricultural economist and we'll have this conversation again. The figures that you're mentioning are hugely understated. I also said at the beginning that even if the government's estimate of 17 lakh crore rupees,
which was taught 50 years ago, about 20 years ago, I had to persuade my Marxist friends that look out of the world, see there is market. And today I have to convince people like you, please look out. There is a world. Economics is economics about human beings. There should be economics as if human beings matter. Yes. Rahul, the economics you speak about has been outdated 50 years ago. Yaar, kuch padh to liya karo thoda sa.
Sir, जेब में पैसा होना चाहिए ना. All of what you're saying is political, it's emotional. There has to be enough. No, there has to be money to be able to afford this. You cannot risk the fiscal health of this country to be able to do something which is politically expeditious but is fiscally ruinous. I want to go across.
Please read those estimates. Please refute those estimates. Let's have it show.
I'm happy. In fact, I'm going to take you up on the challenge. We'll have another conversation. The only thing is, it starts with economics and very quickly veers to politics because it is ultimately a political demand. And even the BJP is hard pressed to explain why MSP should not be mandated because there's political logic behind the demand. Now, Sushmita Dev, you want to come in and make a final point before I wrap up on the issue of the suspension of the 12 opposition MPs.
You see, the 12 opposition MPs have been suspended for what happened in the last session and not this session. However, be that as it may, the point here, the political point that I would like to make is that these bills have been repealed, not because Prime Minister Modi is caring about the farmers, he's worried about the upcoming assembly elections, especially UP and Punjab. And number two, he did not allow the debate today in Parliament and pass it in those 4 minutes because his gesture, which he holds out as something he did for the farmers, would have been further exposed in Parliament today. And that's why he didn't allow the debate. And that's the political point that I wanted to make. It is crystal clear to me. And suspension or nonsense, irrespective of how many people have been suspended, which I believe is wrong, your viewers need to understand that because the BJP basically suspends all debates and all business as per parliamentary procedure is what leads to the kind of action and the kind of, I think, action
Rahul,
that
I have to
happened in
answer
the
her.
last
Okay, I'm out of
assembly
time.
for which you've taken action in this session, which is in itself absurd.
Rakesh
No,
Sinha,
give me 30 seconds to answer her.
yes, I'm also out of time. Quickly.
Yes, I'm just answering in 30 seconds. We know you want debate and discussion and just go through the parliamentary debate during the farms law. Every opposition party got the more time than they deserve. Now you are trying to create debate, violent debate, not by the mental debate, but the muscles debate. The parliament is not the place for the muscles, use of muscles power. And what you have done. And Jogendra Jadhav is putting still because you are not speaking a single word for the violent activities which is taking place inside the house. This is really tragic that an economist or a political activist sitting here pleading for democracy and ridiculing your data is not speaking a single word of the anarchy which is prevailing in the parliament. And Congress party, all opposition parties are responsible. We always allow debate whether 370, triple talaq or false bill. You just point out a single occasion. None of the occasion BJP obstructed debate. Every occasion Congress party obstructed the debate to the using the violence.
So let me just say this in conclusion. This is not the last we would have heard. This is not the last we would have heard of the demand for a minimum support price. The opposition thinks they have the government in the back foot. They will keep pressing hard. And I've just taken up Yogendra Yadav on the challenge of an economic debate. Hopefully with no politicians, even though everyone tends to let their political angles come out, but just focus on the numbers. The numbers are far more than what Yogendra Yadav has quoted. They may be much lesser than what the government's estimating, so the figure could be somewhere in the middle, but ultimately this is going to be a big burden. Can the country afford it? And yes, you have the emotional political argument that Desh ka garib kisan, you promised to double his income, incomes are stagnating, land holdings are coming down, you need to help the farmer. This will play itself out and we'll track this as meaningfully as we possibly can.